The iPhone 15 is in big trouble because all Apple cares about is this. They're slashing huge upgrades planned for new Macs, iPads, iPhones, AirPods, Apple Watches to go all in on this thing that they hope is gonna change the world. And Tim better be right, because if Apple gets this wrong, not only are they gonna lose hundreds of billions of dollars, but it just might cement their fates as being the loser and basically just letting Android win it all. To be totally honest, we just got a lot of bad news about Apple's plans for 2023. So let me break down their master plan. Let me tell you the top 5 things you need to know, what products are going to be released, what we just sort of learned just got the axe, and why this is still set to be Apple's biggest year ever, but not for the reasons you might be thinking. Just a few weeks ago, I was this guy telling you that this was gonna be the year that Apple was going to change everything. It was gonna be a great year, there were a lot of big upgrades planned, the iPhone was gonna get a major redesign, everything was looking super exciting. But now, things have taken a turn, and I've got some bad news that I need to share. Now, let me be clear that 2023 is not all doom and gloom. This is not a horrible year for Apple, but what we thought was going to be the plan for the year, a lot of big upgrades for AirPods and iPads and Macs, isn't actually the case anymore. In fact, what we're hearing now is that Apple might be sort of shelving a lot of big upgrades for next year and focusing on just a handful of products and sort of leaving the rest of Apple's lineup, iPods, that's not around anymore, iPads, AirPods, Macs, all that stuff, largely unchanged this year. According to Mark Gurman over at Bloomberg, Apple is shaking things up this year and pausing a lot of big upgrades they had planned for the Apple Watch line, new iPads, Macs, AirPods, and focusing on just a few new products with big features. To be clear, this doesn't mean we're not gonna see any new Macs or new iPads or things like that, but what this does mean is that they're gonna be very, very small and minor updates. Maybe a spec bump here or there, if anything, really not gonna be a huge year for flagship product upgrades in the Apple world. For example, Apple did just release 3 new Macs that don't have any big changes or really any changes on the outside. Designs here are all exactly the same, but under the hood, we do have some improvements with some new M2 silicon insides. On the MacBook Pro side, again, exact same machines here, 14-inch and 16-inch models, but now you can choose between the M2 Pro and M2 Max chip, giving you better performance, better efficiency. It's a similar story on the Mac Mini side as well. Despite some rumors that we could be seeing a more industrial, colorful redesign, obviously that didn't happen, and the design here is exactly the same. It's what we've had for years, but some important improvements under the hood. You now can choose between the M2 or the M2 Pro. Also, we've got some new news on the new Apple Silicon powered Mac Pro. It is coming, hopefully sooner rather than later, but some bad news here. Not only did Apple cancel a higher end chip planned for this machine, the M2 Extreme, but also the design of the Mac Pro is not expected to change at all. So even though it's gonna be more powerful and more efficient and was rumored to get sort of a smaller new chassis and a new design, looks like Apple's gonna stick with the same old that we've had since the Mac Pro got its last big redesign back in 2019. The one interesting point you need to know about is although the chassis is going to stay the same, you're not gonna have the same modularity. For example, what we know right now is that this new Mac Pro will not let you as the end user upgrade the RAM after the fact. So sort of like with new Apple Silicon computers, what you get when you buy it is sort of what you're stuck with for the life of that machine. The bad news keeps rolling on with the iPad line as well. Not only is Apple not going to release newer, larger iPads this year for the iPad Pro line, but Mark Gurman says we shouldn't expect any iPad Pro news at all. Maybe something at the end of the year, but likely no upgrades to the iPad Pro until the first half of 2024. So if you're in the market for an iPad Pro, now might not be a bad time to buy because no big upgrades are expected for the next 12-ish months. And when it comes to Apple software, you guessed it, it's sort of the same story here as well. Specifically with iOS 17, we will be seeing it this year. We'll get a preview at WWDC in June. We'll get a release in the fall. But again, reports are saying that we're not gonna see as many flashy new upgrades and features as were originally planned for a few months ago. So expect expect a smaller year for Apple software, more refinements, more under the hood improvements. Okay, so what's with all the bad news all of a sudden? I was the guy a few months ago saying it was gonna be exciting, 2023 is gonna be a great year, lots of new products. What exactly happened over the last couple of weeks that took this year from being really exciting to sort of kind of boring? Well, I think it's three main things that happened that you need to know about, and let me just sort of lay out Apple's master plan and why things went a little haywire. Reason number one is a big one for Apple and really many companies around the world, and that is fear of an economic downturn, or at least a recession, specifically here in the US. We've heard that Apple has really halted any new hires, or they've significantly slowed down their hiring. They're cutting budgets with marketing, R&D, sort of trying to conserve their stockpile of cash, and they're really focusing efforts on their bread and butter and not on more experimental or maybe unnecessary upgrades that they don't need to make. For example, we know that some Apple products that were planned to be seen this year or next year will not actually make the cut, like the iPhone SE4 that was supposed to get a pretty big redesign, iPhone 11 style, planned for 2024, not only looks like it was postponed, but according to Apple analyst Ming-Chi Kuo, was like canceled altogether. Apple is really doubling down their efforts to save cash and save resources and focus only on what they deem is really necessary as of right now. And sort of continuing on that, reason number two is that Apple is really doubling down on only a few products this year that need upgrades, but those products should be, according to rumors right now, actually pretty exciting and worth the wait. For example, the iPhone 15 is set to get a lot of good attention this year, some positive attention, after the iPhone 14 line was sort of a wash. The Pro was really exciting, lots of cool features, dynamic island, people love it or hate it, but the regular 14 and 14 Plus were super underwhelming. These phones have not been selling well, and Apple is looking to change that by making some big changes to the iPhone 15. And what actually is some good news, according to all the rumors right now, it looks like Apple is actually going to give some pretty big new features to every single iPhone 15 in the lineup. The iPhone 15 and 15 Plus, the lower-end regular iPhones, will be getting some pretty good new features. In addition to a rumored redesign, these new phones will get the 48-megapixel main camera from the 14 Pro now on their main camera system as well. They're going to get a new cutting-edge Sony image sensor. They'll both get the dynamic island, the A16 processor, and finally, for the first time on an iPhone, a USB-C port on the bottom too. When it comes to Apple's Pro phones, lots of good stuff is coming here as well. In addition to what we have already got right now, things like ProMotion, we've got the dynamic island, all that stuff. We should be seeing some new things like an A17 processor. We should be getting a titanium frame around the phones instead of stainless steel, maybe some new colors, and also a big change to the Pro Max. What we're hearing right now is that Apple is going to rebrand and rename the Pro Max and now call this phone the iPhone 15 Ultra. It's gonna have the biggest screen, the biggest battery, and also might have some Ultra exclusive features on it as well, like a 10x optical zoom lens with this new periscope lens technology, only reserved for this highest end iPhone. And the third and final reason why Apple is really shelving all of their big upgrades this year and focusing only on a few things is all because of this, the Apple headset, dubbed Reality Pro or Apple Reality. It's finally coming after years and years of rumors and reports and lots of secrecy. It's finally going to be launching this year in 2023. And what we know right now is that Apple has diverted many different teams and resources and budgets to make this headset finally become reality, that they've pulled a lot of engineers, really again, sort of putting a smaller update for many products, but giving this headset all the priority because it needs to come out right now. What we know right now is that it's gonna be packed with tech. It should have iris scanning capabilities. It's gonna have an M series chip. Apple is expected to show this off at an event in the spring now, not in January, obviously, but at an event in the spring, and we should be seeing it released sort of on store shelves and available online and in store before the end of 2023. And as you'd expect, this move has drawn a lot of criticism from Apple fans and critics alike because this is a really big, risky bet. If Apple gets this right with the headset, if this is really as revolutionary as many people think it's going to be, then this is going to be an obvious win. It's like the iPad and the iPhone and the iPod and the iMac. This is Apple ushering in an all-new product in an all-new category, and once again, they're going to change the world forever and make hundreds of billions of dollars. Tim Cook's gonna have a big smile on his face, and it'll be a very good year in the next few years, next decade, for Apple if this is successful. And everybody's gonna hope it is successful and that Apple knows what they're doing. But if they get it wrong, If Tim is wrong on this, if Apple is wrong on this, and this turns into a flop or a trash can Mac Pro fiasco, could sort of tarnish their reputation. It could tarnish Tim Cook's reputation. It really could sort of bring down his legacy at Apple. And if they get this wrong, that's so much time, money, and wasted resources that went in to sort of a flop. But if it sort of lags behind the competition and doesn't do well, that sort of puts the iPhone behind and the iPad behind and the Mac behind. In fact, many are concerned that Apple might be making a classic Meta Facebook mistake by sort of betting it all, going all in on the metaverse and AR and VR, only to see some colossal failures and really find that the interest that they thought was there wasn't really there. And I know many of you guys watching this video are very skeptical. You're not a fan of this headset. You don't think it's gonna be really worthwhile. You think it's gonna be too expensive. Rumored price tag right now, probably about $3,000 to start. So let me know your thoughts down below. What do you think about Apple's 2023 plans? Do you think they should be more conservative? Should they be putting more big upgrades in other products? Should they be going all in on the headset? And what do you think is going to happen? Is the headset going to be a huge win? Is it going to be a failure? Do you think that Apple is in big trouble if this isn't as successful as they think? Let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. We can discuss, and let me know your thoughts on Apple's plans for 2023. You think it's going to be a good year, a bad year? Let me know your thoughts down below. As always, I appreciate you guys watching so much. Thank you so much for your support. I'm Robert Rosenfeld from the Apple Circle, and I'll see you all in the next one.